the next bit, and this is really what we've started building with the team, is okay, well, look, if we were to talk about an AI assistant for capital project delivery, what are all the different types of agents that we think it needs to be able to do and build? And the reason that we're doing this is, well, for us as a business, we kind of have to start working out which kind of features or functionality do we think, which agents could we support and provide, but also most, I think, clients would probably respond. There's a lot of conversation about what AI could do and what it can do, and there's different teams exploring different ideas. What we thought would be useful is, well, actually, let's try and put a framework in place that just kind of helps facilitate the kind of conversations on what you actually want AI to do. Because I think, I'm sure Mark will agree, is once we're kind of clear on what we want AI to be able to do, it then makes it a lot easier to start thinking about, okay, well, how would we construct AI in the code in order to be able to facilitate that transaction? So, I mean, we've kind of, well, maybe I'll go quickly run through these, but these are kind of our initial ideas. Obviously, we can definitely see one around project classification, lifecycle optimization. So, okay, I need to understand about your project. Maybe you classify projects as kind of light, standard, major, or you have different risk classifications, but you want to ensure that people are being consistent in how they classify projects. And that can be really simple. Look, you ask AI, it asks you questions, and based on that interaction, it then basically says, by the way, I think your risk classification X, and here's my justification. So at least then you're getting people to classify projects consistently. Like I said, kind of illustrated before, I think the build on that is great. You've told me I'm risk classification 3, so what? And it's kind of like, well, so what will be, I've now cloned your playbook, or I've cloned your method, and I've tailored it, right-sized it. I've moved you to a 2-stage or a 3-stage process. I've put in the gates, and oh, by the way, because of X, Y, and Z, you need these additional deliverables and controls. And
also drawing on your other projects that it has access to that are in a similar classification of, all of your other projects that are at this certain classification, they all have this feature in, so this is something you'd want to consider putting in.
Yeah,
is what we were talking about before, of that kind of structure that you have, and the AI, rather than just making things up off the top of its head, drawing on an existing structure to give these suggestions.
Yeah, I think the reality of most complex organizations today, there are probably like a whole range of different standards that you say, look, I want you to be able to apply all of these standards to your project. But that's a kind of breadth of knowledge that a user's got to be, like a human's got to be able to kind of work through and read all it. Whereas if AI's basically got access to it and grounded on it, it's much better to then be informed and conversational dialogue between you. Oh, by the way, this, I've added this, you need to think about that and that and that, and it be relevant based on the kind of conversation about the project. So that definitely we see that one, and I definitely see that one helping kind of more with the dynamic future ways of how we think work will be defined and displayed to users. The assurance and readiness monitoring, I thought this will be, look, are you ready for a gate? Probably works with other agents to kind of assess it, but essentially, okay, you're going for gate 2. Yeah, I've looked at the playbook, I've looked at your plan, I've looked at other kind of deliverables, I've looked at the design, I've had a chat with a design risk intelligent agent, and yeah, by the way, I think you're ready to go through gate 2, or actually, no, this has changed, you haven't seen this, and you don't have that deliverable. I think that kind of assurance and gate kind of monitoring, I think is going to be a useful agent. Yeah, the design risk intelligence, I think that, again, that's probably more for kind of CDEs, is like, and assessing kind of design integrity, design documentation, design changes, and making sure that the design's coherent, and catching where you're blindsided and being an intelligent agent that's pushing recommendations to you. Change control, impacting forecasting came up a couple of days ago. It's just like, I've got to raise a change. I raised the change in CDE. I then have to go to CMAR, and then I have to wait, and it's kind of, then I have to do the impacts. I was like, well, surely there'll be a kind of more coordinated agent that's helping you with, someone's raised a change, great, I've done the impact assessment, I've looked at a history of changes before. This is what the next steps is, and by the way, I'm integrated into doing CMAR, so I've already done that for you. So definitely we'll see agents in that space. I think the other one.
I think that's. I was going to say, like, that's kind of what we were talking about before, right? About currently, it's the human has to do something to trigger the AI to do a task. Whereas what you're talking about here is, certain AI agents reacting to changes within the state, rather than a human proactively having to go ask them to do something.
Yeah, I think that what's the forecast confidence agent. So obviously, I think there's going to be ERP accessing P6 or Primavera, and basically, yeah, just assessing the confidence, like how confident are we in particular milestones, and giving us kind of more insight into the schedule and cost performance and value, etc., and bringing that to life for people to think about. Procurement package readiness, again, another one is just, payment, suppliers, managing suppliers, and are we ready for invoicing payments. There'll be one around carbon, whole life of cost assessment, carbon decisions that you're making. The safety intelligence, early warning, we've already seen kind of, again, platforms being built that do that role. Assess all the kind of health and safety data, but rather than it being like independent as a separate platform, I think the natural evolution is, well, how do I get that agent to be helping me assess, looking at my project, looking at the scope of my project, and suggesting kind of hazards, things that haven't been seen, looking at kind of the accidents that have been happening, actually kind of getting to root cause or early warning indicators for potential impacts on projects. Again, so that's
how do you get it to do that proactively as well, right? Without having to go manually into a separate system to kind of look up the relevant information.
And then I think obviously we kind of know knowledge and lessons reuse. We kind of got LEAP kind of already, but again, I think the change here, the change in thinking is less of AI as a feature on a lessons learned database. Oh, great. I can chat with an agent that can go and search records and return it. I think this is much more saying, oh, well, look, how can I look at behavioral detection and work out when I want to try and capture lessons off people. But more importantly, I think is, I know about your project. I know that something's happened on a change. I can see something in the assurance. By the way, I've connected the dots on those three things. And basically, I think this lesson is important to you at the point it's happening, rather than, just dependent on whether a user's gone in and used the chatbot to interact with it.
Again, proactively kind of either sharing the lesson with you or asking you for a lesson when it's relevant based on what you've been doing, rather than because you've clicked a button saying, open up my lessons learned.
I think we were talking about it before, was, okay, there's lessons, i.e., we've written down a lesson, but then I think what actually there could be is a new kind of mathematical kind of lessons database, which is, by the way, when AI detects these three agents or these three signals from different agents, I need to push certain recommendations to people, because that's a kind of, so I think what we'll see is kind of mathematical pattern-based lessons that we see events from different agents that then go, actually, I need to service that. And that's the bit where I think AI is going to be fantastic at.
Which, that's sort of AI bread and butter, right? Is pattern recognition. And exactly as you say, every time in previous projects, X, Y, and Z line up, it leads to this consequence. So in this project I'm looking at now, X, Y, and Z has happened. So I need to proactively flag this up and say, you need to be thinking about this risk because of this pattern that the AI has detected.
And then I think like capability, resource coverage. I think we'll start to see one like someone's long-term sick. So what's the impact? What's the impact of my schedule? It being connected to HR systems, it being triggered by that and saying, by the way, this person is now not available on your project. This has been impact. These are what's impacted. I think the other build on that is like it being able to access things like CAMEA or the competency management system and saying, actually, don't worry about it. I've found 2 or 3 people that are available that can do it, that have the right level of competency. Or actually, it surfaces and saying, actually, you've got a much bigger problem because, this is a big impact to your project. And what we can see from the data is nobody that has the competency or level that's required for your project is available. That's a significant issue that I can't resolve for you. You need to go and have a chat and how we sort that out.
Which goes back to the human in the loop interface we were talking about before, right?
Yeah. And then I think that kind of naturally, as agents get access to more project data, you will then get the kind of executive agent, which is, look, tell me which projects I need to worry about, and it being then saying, look, by the way, I think these are all green, but this one, it's reporting, they say it's green, but actually what we can see in the data is actually it's predicting to fail. So I think there's obviously like project prediction tools already out there in the market, but I think, again, how do you make it all kind of being an all-inclusive integrated role that's helping you do something? And this, I mean, we then sort of start to take that we think is a good framework or a good model to start helping you explore and break down that. Well, firstly, it's really helpful if we can just get everyone on the same page about what we want this AI assistant to be able to do. And I think that's probably in order of building any kind of platform or solution that you want to build, is I kind of have a vision for what I want it to look, and that's kind of shared with people talking about it. For us, we've kind of broken that down just into slightly more granular things just to help us. But what we recognize in all of the things underneath it is, whilst yes, we'll do kind of lessons, capture, delivery, risk detection, knowledge queries, and we're kind of exploring the kind of concept of template dynamics, so drafting documents using AI and then having AI check documents. What we recognize is that we are not going to, we need to work and operate within an integrated system. Like, we'll need to connect data to Bentley, P6, SharePoint, Procore. All those different systems are going to play a role in how we build this agent to be able to work as a role, rather than just a haberdashery of independent individual features. So look, what we started to do is start to basically build some of those agents. We started to build out and profile them, and I think this is kind of a framework that you could use, but we're just being clear about, look, what's the purpose of the agent? What benefits will it provide? What does it do? Like, fundamentally, what are the kind of things that we want it to be able to do? What data or systems is it going to need to start to have access to in order to be able to perform those roles? And then I think it's important, like kind of example in action is to start then bringing it to life. And you can definitely kind of whiteboard it or just map it out in terms of like the interaction between the AI and the human, but it's kind of helping you understand, okay, well, what's the interface and interaction that we want with that agent and the human, and what decisions do we want AI to make or recommend, and what kind of dialogue do we want to go backwards and forwards between the agent? And then you're going to have to start thinking about, well, what's the value and what's the priority? Because we don't think this is, we disappear for 6-12 months and then ta-da, it's working. We see the way that these agents are going to be built, or the way that we build AI as a role, is very much going to be iterative development of, well, we've got it to do this now, we've now got it talking to this agent and going backwards and forwards, and we're happy with it. And that, we feel, is basically how clients are going to kind of evolve and develop their kind of AI as a role feature.
Yeah, I also think, just from, I'll be brief about this, but from a technical point of view, the technologies for how these different AI agents are going to interact with each other, that's kind of evolving as well. The big kind of conversation going on at the minute is kind of MCP, Model Context Protocol. It's called, that's kind of being developed. These big AI companies, I think it was Anthropic who first kind of proposed it, and Google and Microsoft have recently got on board, which is essentially just a technical protocol for how AI agents are going to talk to each other, right? And that's going to be evolving as we do this, as it always does with any kind of new technology. And I think it's going to take a while for that sort of thing to settle as well. And how do we? Because we all collectively, as a society, we kind of need to we need to land on how these AI agents are actually going to talk to each other. How are they going to advertise their features to each other, tell each other what knowledge they can provide or what features they can offer to each other. So I think that's also going to be part of the conversation from a more sort of technical point of view as well.
Yeah, and I think we can definitely see that whilst client, I think broadly, I mean, like it'll be like AWS and Azure that will provide the infrastructure for clients to be able to construct that intelligent decisioning system. And they'll give them the kind of technical capabilities, and then platforms will need to kind of work and integrate within it.